Okay, welcome one and all, welcome dear friends, as we on this historic day, and I say historic because tonight we observe and celebrate the life of the Rambam. We commemorate the yahrzeit of the Rambam, the 20th day of Teves, and it's not lost on anybody that tonight we are also beginning the loss of Karban Pesach. The Karban Pesach, of course, is brought on the day before Pesach, which is the birthday of the Rambam. So today we're celebrating the birthday and the yahrzeit of the Rambam, and we do so by concluding the 8th of 14 books. And as the Rebbe told us, that we are to make a celebratory meal, a celebration, not just when we finish the entire 14 books, but every time we finish one of the 14 books. In fact, when it was on Shabbos, the Rebbe said, put it off after Shabbos so that more people can join the celebration. So here we are. We want to welcome all those who are on Facebook, on Chabad.org. Of course, the tens and tens and tens of thousands who use Chabad.org to study the Rambam every single day. And in addition to all those who are joining us here on Zoom and will be joining us as this is broadcasted around the world. So welcome one, welcome all on this auspicious day as we celebrate the Siyum of the 8th book of the Rambam, the life of the Rambam with this yahrzeit, and study about the day that he was born, Erev Pesach. And we're going to open today. We have a very, very exciting program ahead of us. I am excited because I've talked to every one of our presenters beforehand, so I got the inside scoop a little bit beforehand. But we open from an unexpected location and an unexpected angle. Of course, this 8th book opened describing the Beis Hamikdash, describing the dimensions, the size, and the beautiful building, the Beis Hamikdash. And we are now treated with an individual who has actually dedicated his life to bringing children and adults closer to their Yiddishkeit through fun products. He is a master Lego builder, and he has created a scale model of the Beis Hamikdash that is used in families around the world. So we'd like to welcome Yitzy Kasowitz. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Are you here?
I'm here. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. It's it's not beyond me. I never thought I'd see myself on a flyer with the Rebbe, the Rambam, and Rabbi Lew.
So tell us, first of all, what is a master Lego builder, and how did a Lubavitcher Junger man become a master Lego builder? I've actually never heard of that profession. So please give us some insight and tell us how that happened.
Okay, so to understand this, it's really not about me. It's all about Hashgacha Pratis. Like Rabbi Lew was mentioning to me right before this program started, that prior to being born, the oldest of 8 children, Kanahara, my parents went into Yechidus to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe gave a bracha. My mother was pregnant with me. The Rebbe gave a bracha, megadol zayin l'taril chopel ma'asim tovim. So of course, as soon as they came out, my father was going crazy that the Rebbe just said I was going to be a boy. And so Torah Chuppah, Kanahara for children, and ma'asim tovim, here we are with Lego. That whole story, how we ended up going to Des Moines, Iowa for Shliach, and I got sent to Minnesota. And in the course of being in Minnesota, years after I was married, about 7 years ago, just happened to discover that there's a Lego place about 25 minutes from my house. Could have been anywhere in the world, could have been in Missouri, just happened to be 25 minutes from my house. I never heard of the place. I ended up going there, applying for a job. They hired me immediately, and I became a master Lego builder, being taught by a master Lego builder who the Lego company wanted to hire.
What is a master Lego builder?
What defines it? It's basically understanding each individual Lego piece, the capability of it, the quantities of it, the various colors, the way they can connect, the molds, the various. There's just so many angles of it, and when you understand all of these things, it's basically knowing all the pieces you have in a puzzle, and then you're able to find inspiration in a few pieces and create different designs with it.
So is your product a Lego product?
It is made with 100% existing Lego pieces. The Lego company does not make this model themselves. I designed it and I produce it through my company, jbrick.com. But Lego does not sponsor, authorize, or endorse. They didn't give me a discount on any of the pieces, and they don't make any pieces specially for me.
Why not?
Their policy is basically they don't do anything religious officially. So even though maybe I would call it an architecture set, they would say it's religious because you have sacrifices and stuff. So they stay away from it.
Okay, no sacrifices for Lego. We use Lego pieces. So now you become this master Lego builder. Tell us a little bit about your creation of this model. Is it to scale? What are the challenges? Give us some inside scoops and tell us we've all completed the laws of Beis Hamikdash. Maybe an interesting tidbit, something that you learned, something that you uncovered, and how this happened.
Okay, so when I was a child, I did not have the opportunity to purchase a Jewish themed Lego set. Of course, I built whatever I could at home, making menorahs, sukkah-mobiles, whatever. But it would have been nice to purchase that. So as Hashgacha Pratis would have it, Hashem gave me the skill and ability to provide this for others. So that's what came about. So jbrick.com started with a model menorah, which I made for the company I was working for. They actually wanted me to make a holiday scene with a tree and lights and an ice skating ring and a winter village and a train and all that. And I said, why don't we put a menorah in? Or actually, my boss told me, why don't you put a menorah in there also? So I said, okay, why don't we make this menorah as a set? He said, no, that's not for us. You could do it on your own. Fine. I'm like, I don't know how to make instructions. He's like, no problem. I'll help you. So that's how JBrick got started. So I made dreidels, menorahs, seder plates, tzedakah boxes, all these things. The one set I wanted to make was the Beis Hamikdash, but unlike any random design I could do for a menorah, the Beis Hamikdash I took very seriously that if I'm going to be responsible for educating others in how to build it, once I make it a set and provide building instructions, I don't want it to be inaccurate. So it took me about 3 years to build and rebuild and rebuild. The more I learned, Gemara, Mishnayos, Rambam, Josephus, everything, and put it all together. And this model you see behind me is basically a result of my personal model, my personal time and money and pieces to just learn about the Beis Hamikdash. And the actual set that's for sale, you can see, is this model with just a square 500 by 500 amas for now for the Harabayas.
Is it to scale?
It is converted from Amos to Lego. It is to scale. If you purchase the set from us, I have a whole page that explains how I make the conversion. The Hashgacha Pratis, I didn't know this. Rabbi Karp brought me out to Arlei Torah, Gan Menachem, in New York to present this to the kids there. And he asked me, okay, how many pieces do you have in this whole thing? So I don't know, about 20, 30,000 pieces. I lost track with all the rebuilding. He says, yeah, but the Beis Hamikdash set itself you sell. How many pieces are in there? I said, well, in there's 1,304 pieces. He says, I know this number 1304. That's the Rebbe's address, 1304 President Street. I said, okay, that's very interesting. I didn't realize that when I built it. I'll tell you something else I didn't realize when I built it. That when I took it to a big Lego show, people kept asking me what scale it is, and I didn't know. I had to ask someone to figure it out for me. And he was a big math guy, and he took out his calculator. He says, it's about 600 scale. I said, what do you mean about? It's like, well, 613. I'm like, thank you very much. That's what I needed to know. 613, that's the scale it is. So if you make this.
So your Beis Hamikdash is 613 times smaller than the real Beis Hamikdash.
Correct.
So before we let you go, could you give us some insight, something interesting that you learned, that you uncovered, that you had a difficulty with, you had to figure out how to get something into Lego? Give us something interesting, a unique halacha, some part of the Beis Hamikdash.
So for starters, one of the first things you'll see in the Harabayas part over here, obviously the east side we know is lower than the west side. It was a big risk for me to make a Lego Beis Hamikdash as a product according to the Rambam. If I did it according to Tosfos Yom Tov, that's what people are used to seeing. Theoretically, it would have been an easier sell. I could have made it in China for cheaper. I wanted to be out of Lego, which would be the highest quality piece for the Beis Hamikdash. Certainly that would seem appropriate. But when I first made the Harabayas, I made it flat. And the Rambam said the east side was lower. I had some difficulty with it. But then a few years ago, modern archaeology, they measured ground level up on the east side, ground level up on the west side, and they discovered the east side is lower. I'm like, perfect. They just proved the Rambam is right. That's it. Now I'm doing it according to Rambam, no questions, and I had to keep studying and reviewing. Also, like the Beis Hamikdash is square and a very large structure, like the Rambam says, and that is different than the Tosfos Yom Tov, which has it smaller, half inside the wall, half out. The Rambam says completely out. So there were definitely a few details which I had to incorporate according to the Rambam. And then there was also a few details which I still couldn't find, but ultimately I found something from the Rebbe which cleared up a few details, which was perfect, that I was able to finally release it.
For example?
There is 3 Sanhedrin, 3 courthouses, one small one on the outside right here, one in the Ezras Nashim in the women's courtyard, and then a large one which you can't really see, but it's in the Ezras Nashim going outside to the Chayil. Rabbi Levanani, people know this model that Rabbi Levanani brought to the Rebbe, and he showed that the Rebbe questioned about the ramp being a little bit off, and he said he did it, but he measured. Okay, fine. He put out a book about his model, and in that book, every single picture has the Sanhedrin in the women's courtyard in a different spot. And when I looked at other places also, I couldn't make heads or tails of exactly the location of where it could be. I could put it anywhere, but I didn't want to get it wrong. So I found this thing from the Rebbe somewhere. I kept asking Rabbi Pekarsky, Minnesota. He actually finally brought it to my attention, and we reviewed it. The Rebbe, someone submitted to the Rebbe some drawings of something they were putting out about the Beis Hamikdash, and the Rebbe crossed out the location where they had the Sanhedrin and put an arrow or put the location of where it is. So that was very helpful. Also, like the Shara Mayim, in some models or drawings, the gate is a little bit west of the Mizbeach itself. The Rebbe did the same thing, crossed out where Shara Mayim is and drew like an arrow with the spot where it's supposed to be, and made a notation of that the doorway, the gateway, should be exactly across from the ramp of the Mizbeach.
Wow. Yitzy, and I talked to him, and I say this, he was Moise Nefesh. He spent so much of his time and effort and money just to produce for the Jewish world a beautiful model. I'm sure everyone can purchase it on JBrick. It's not only for children, I'll have you know, it's exciting for adults. It gets us into it, and it really comes alive. So Yashakech for taking something from our 21st century, using it on Zoom in the 21st century, and making the Beis Hamikdash come alive. May the Eibush to bench you, that your company, and you should continue educating Jewish children and adults alike. Yashakech, thank you very, very much. A big Yashakech, Yitzy. Thank you for joining us.
Amen. Thank you for having me.
And now we're going to travel across the world to the Kever of the Rambam, where we are very honored to have Rabbi Kramer by the Rambam right now. And he is actually going to make the Siyum on the Rambam's yahrzeit for all of us together. In fact, the Rebbe actually asked that the Siyum take place at the Rambam's yahrzeit, and we are fulfilling that right now. So wherever we are in the world, we're joined virtually at the Rambam, and we're now going to ask Rabbi Kramer. Rabbi Kramer, tell us, on this day, how many people are usually on a regular Chav Teves at the Rambam?
Well, usually when there's no lockdown, as there is now in Israel, there would be here hundreds and maybe even thousands of people. Every year, we take the job of providing people with light sandwiches and drinks. But this year, the police told us no food, and they're only allowing a very small group of people coming in at the same time for men and women. Officially, there's supposed to be here only 10 men and 10 women, but like usual, some more people are here, but not much more. Tomorrow will be many more people coming during the day.
Wow, and I'm sure no one's traveling more than a kilometer from their house. I'm sure all the hundreds of people who are there are all within 100, or within 1 kilometer of the Rambam. And from the Rambam, Rabbi Kramer, please, we're now going to conclude the 8th book, Sefer Hashmini of the Rambam. Please, Rabbi Kramer, from the Kever of the Rambam for the entire world to see.
Okay, so here we go. We're now, first let me mention Rabbi Bistrisky. So he used to make the Siyum every Sefer and send mashke to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe would bring it to the Farbrengen and distribute it to people. It seems the Rebbe was very excited about this, about finishing every Sefer. And the Bachrim here in our yeshiva in Teveria, we have a yeshiva, and there's a Bach here with me. So they do it every Sefer. They come down to the Rambam and they make the Siyum. So now we'll do the Siyum It's the eighth halacha in Ilchus Meila, which is part of Sefer Avodah. And here the Rambam tells us that Roi la'adam lizbainin b'mishpetei atera agdesha v'leida seif inyanam kfi kochei. That it's appropriate that a person should meditate on the judgments of the Torah and to try to understand it according to his capacity. Al yiyu kalbeinav v'lo yaris lalis l'Hashem pem nifris b'o v'leitei machshavtei b'o ki machshavtei b'shar divrei chel. So that the person should meditate on these laws, not in the same way that he does other mundane matters. How the Torah was so strict concerning the laws of Me'ilah, to use the property of the Beis Hamikdash inappropriately. So if stones, rocks, whatever, if a person had placed upon it the name of God, he no longer may use it for other things which are not holy. If a person uses it for an inappropriate manner, he is moil on it. So a person should not take lightly the mitzvahs just because he doesn't understand it. In other words, he shouldn't look at the mitzvahs of the Torah as the way that a person would look at general and mundane matters. Amru chachamim litin shmira v'asiyah lechukim kamishpatim, that a person should keep the mitzvahs, even those that are chukim, in other words, they don't have any explanation, just as he would do those that he does understand, which are called mishpatim. V'asiyah yedua v'hi shiyasa chukim v'shmira shizar behem v'lei yedam Hashem chusin min hamishpatim. So you should not think that the laws of the chukim are any less than the mishpatim that he understands. Mishpatim he mitzvahs shetayim and goli v'teva siyosam ba'elam hazeh yedua. And the mitzvahs which are called mishpatim are the revealed mitzvahs which we know the reasons for them. Again, Isur Gezel, Shvichas Damim, V'kibud Aveim, like the prohibitions against robbery and bloodshed and honoring one's father and mother. V'chukim he mitzvahs she'ein time when you do it. And chukim are the decrees of the mitzvahs whose rationale is not known. Amru chachamim, chukim our sages said, I ordain decrees and you have no license to question them. A person's natural inclination confronts him concerning them, and the nations of the world challenges them. For example, what are the chukim? Again, Isur basar chazir, basar b'chalav, ve'egla arufa, like the prohibition of the meat of a pig or milk and meat, the calf whose neck is broken, the red heifer, and paraduma v'sayra mishtraleach, the goat that was sent to Azazel. V'kama David HaMelech mitztaer min haminim u'ma'evdei chachamim shayu meshiven ala chukim. To what degree King David suffered because of the heretics and the idolaters who would issue and challenge the decrees. They would pursue him. But this would only cause him more to cleave in the Torah, to cling to the Torah. And he said, what with willful transgressors have stacked falsehoods against me, but I guard your precepts with a full heart. And here the Rambam says that the offerings, the sacrifices, are part of those mitzvahs which are called chokim. Amru chacham shbil avedas hakabanos ha'olam omed. The rabbi said the world exists for the sake of the service of the sacrifices. Shabasiyas hachukim v'mishpatim zeichim ha'yisharim l'chayei ha'olam haba. Listen to these words. For through the performance of the decrees and the judgments, the righteous merit the life of the world to come. And between the two of them, the Torah gives precedence to the commandments of the decrees, which are called chukim, shenemar, ushmartem, es chukaisai, ves mishpatai, first chukaisai and then mishpatai, asher yasa oisam ha'adam v'chai behem, decrees and judgments which a person will perform and live through them. So now we finish Slikol Hilchos Meila B'Siyata Shmaya and Nigmar Sefer Shmini V'u Sefer Avodah. And B'ezrat Hashem, we start the 9th book of the Yad HaChazaka. When we come up to Rambam, when you walk up, you see 14 pillars. So this is the 8th pillar, and we're starting now the 9th pillar, which begins, as Rabbi Resnick said before, the Hilchos Pesach, which leads us towards the birthday of the Rambam, Erev Pesach, after Chatzos.
Yashakayach. Thank you very much, Rabbi Kramer. May the schus of the Rambam, may the merit of the Rambam, it should stand at your stead and give you much success in your shlichus and in your yeshiva, and may it bring blessing to all the Jewish people and to all of us who are celebrating. Yashakayach, thank you very much, Rabbi Kramer.
Okay, just one last word. I want to invite all your viewers to see us, Mirz Hashem, at 3 o'clock Israeli time. We'll be having a live broadcast of 5.5 hours from the Rambam's Kever to be broadcasted at COL Live and Arutz Sheva. So you're all invited to join us with that. It's going to be a very interesting broadcast.
Thank you very much. Tremendous hatzlach, and we do not stop. We go from the end right to the beginning, and we travel from Eretz Yisrael to London, England, where we have the pleasure of having together with us Rabbi Shmuel Lew, a well-known educator, a senior Shliach of the Rebbe in England, in London, a mentor to many around the world, a guide, a mentor. And Rabbi Lew, before we get started, we would like to ask you to please begin right away, without interruption, the 9th book of the Rambam, Sefer Karbanos. Please, Rabbi Lew.
Yes. You hear me?
Hear you loud and clear, Rabbi.
Here we are. So it's Sefer Karbanos, Sefer HaKarbanos, and it's Hilchos Korban Pesach, as we just heard, and we heard before from our esteemed chairman. It's the Rambam's birthday, actually, on Erev Pesach. So this is the mitzvah. Mitzvahs say, Lishchot HaPesach ba'abo also l'chodesh Nisan acha chatzos. There's a positive command to shech the Korban Pesach on the 14th of the month of Nisan after noon, which was exactly the time that the Rambam, incidentally, was born. The ein shoichetin element akvasim oimin ha'izim bilvad, and they must be taken from the species of sheep and goats alone. Zocher ben shana, a male, 1 year old, v'echat ha'ish, v'echat ha'isha chayoven b'mitzvah zoi. Both every man and every woman is obligated in this mitzvah. We learn it out from our pasuk that even though it's a mitzvah sasesha as man diroma, it's a time connected commandment. Women are also obligated because it says b'michsas nefashos, for the number of souls, and women have nefashos, of course. Umi sheyavat on mitzvah zu bezodoin, and one who does not do this mitzvah, and it's deliberately, and the day of the 14th of Nisan has passed, and this person has not brought the Korban Pesach, and furthermore, he was not Tomei, and he wasn't out of the environs of the Beis Hamikdash, that person is obligated to the very strict spiritual punishment of Kodesh, whereas if he abolished that commandment, he didn't keep it, inadvertently, Potter, he is free even from bringing a korban chatas because it's a mitzvah saseh and he didn't do any actual act. And for that reason, he doesn't have a punishment if he was a shoygig. That's the first halacha. And in a few halachas further, it will say that the korban Pesach is very significant. And it's the only korban which is brought after the korban tomid. First, you brought the korban tomid. That's about halacha hadalet, somewhere in that period. That you bring the korban tomid, which is the daily sacrifice, and that's the only time, the afternoon one. That was usually the last one, but here the korban pesach was brought afterwards. There are reasons given from psukim, bein ha'abayim and bo'erev, and there are reasons given practical because it was difficult in the schedule of the Beis Hamikdash. But maybe we can also say, it's my own suggestion, that if you want to get to korban Pesach, if you want to be able to really succeed in Sefer Harambam, there's the idea of a tomid of getting used to the idea of constancy, of consistency, day in, day out. Yes,
Shekoyach, thank you very, very much, Rabbi Lew. Just talking to Rabbi Lew is enough to give you a dose of inspiration. You know, Rabbi Lew, everyone starts off the machzer. We all start off in the beginning. We're all excited. We're now about halfway through, so we need a dose of Rabbi Lew over here, who's going to give us some much needed inspiration and guidance and tips on how we can keep our enthusiasm and our commitment to Rambam and how we can keep that fire burning. And I'd like to begin, Rabbi Lew, what is it that we should be thinking? What is it that primarily gets us connected and gets us really on a day-to-day basis committed to Limud Harambam?
Now, there are many places where the Rebbe explains this special significance, but let me share with you something very personal. 60 years ago, in about 3 weeks' time, on Yud Beit Shvat, Tavshin Chof Aleph, 60 years ago, I was a youngster, just before my 21st birthday. I went into Yechidus, a private audience, on a Sunday night about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. The night before Motzei Shabbos, the Rebbe had spoken about people who want to be attached, connected to the Rebbe, and how that inspiration can fall into a person, but it must be connected to an actual act on this world in order to make it remain consistent and to give it grounding and to anchor it. So I asked the Rebbe in Yechidus among a number of things, but one of them was, how can I achieve being connected to the Rebbe, which I want, basically, but I have my moments of doubts or coldness and etc. How can I bring it down to earth, as the Rebbe suggested? The Rebbe, I gave an answer. I'm not going into the whole answer, just saying the first opening line of what the Rebbe's answer was that Ike Hiskashrus is durch Torah. The main connection to me is through Torah. And he mentioned chitas, studying chitas every day, and explained that if you're studying what I study, then there is a bond which is unparalleled in the physical world, like it says in Tanya, Perek Hey. And I want to say that when you talk about the Rambam, the Rebbe referred to the Rambam in contrast to chitas. The Rebbe explained on one Erev Yom Kippur the daily chitas, and then he came to the daily Rambam. It was the earliest years, and the Rebbe said, this has a chavivus meyuchedes. The Shir Rambam, studying the Rambam as I have asked people to do, is especially precious to me. Mitzad the Mailuf and Kaf Shaloi, because this is my contribution. This is what I instituted. So somebody who wants to have a connection to the Rebbe, to me, that as somebody who wants to be a chassid, wants to be a makusha, wants to have a connection to the Rebbe, that is the first and foremost ingredient of a chassid, is to study the Torah, which the Rebbe tells him to study, and the Rebbe's Torah. So
wow. So we all want to have this discussion, Rabbi Lew. So how do we do it?
So how do you get to it? The Alter Rebbe says, and the Rebbe quotes this maybe hundreds of times, many times in sichos and letters. The Alter Rebbe said that there's a mitzvah of Talmud Torah that to be koveya itim la Torah, to fix times for Torah. And the Alter Rebbe said that it's not merely a kaviyas in Zman, but it's kaviyas in Nefesh. It has to be something which is fixed in your soul, in yourself, in your innermost self. So the beginning of, if you want to succeed in the Shir Rambam, is to say, I want to do it, and to really mean it to yourself. That's the key. Then everything else are tips and ways, and ways that it's very accessible today. But the most important thing is that first step where a person says, I am going to do it, and nothing is going to stop me. If you have that hachlota, that resolve, that determination, then you'll be able to have the perseverance that will be able to overcome the various things that happen in life that sometimes stand in the way of doing things that you really want to do, but you do it because you know this is something that I really want to do. After Kriyas and Nefesh, my suggestion is, especially to someone who's having difficulties in sticking to it, is to make a Kriyas in Zman, to have a fixed time. And each person has to work out themselves, or with the mashpia, with their mentor, with someone, with their own nefesh olakis, a way that they can find in their day a period of time where they can do it. Turn off your phone, turn off your WhatsApp, turn off everything in the world. Some people do it a perik after shacharis, a perik before lunch, and a perik after, whatever it is. Some people do the whole thing in the morning. There was a bacha who was doing it before davening every morning, in the earliest years of this takana. And his mashpia heard about it, or maybe in a discussion he brought it up, and he said, don't do it before davening. So he wrote to the Rebbe and said, this is what I'm doing. This is what the mashpia told me. And extremely rare, it's the only case I know where the Rebbe said, Yamshich, he should continue doing like he did until now. And my interpretation, that's the story. The interpretation, everyone can, it's free for everyone. But I believe that maybe the Rebbe was saying, if that's where you're fixed, that's the time which is most convenient, most comfortable, that's where your kaviyas benefesh is. And api halacha, you're allowed to study halacha before davening. It's not, it's, there are questions about going into deep Talmudic study, Gemara, Sfaris, but halacha lemaisa is permitted. It's Torah which is permitted to be studied before shacharis. Coming back to our thing, I would say that kviyas benefesh. That's the first and foremost. You want to do it. If you want it, you'll never miss.
You told me a very an inspiring story about that, about a colleague of yours, Rabbi Kunin. I was so moved by that.
Yeah. Now, Talmud is a chava in yeshiva with me. Rabbi Shlomo Kunin is a contemporary of mine. And we both went on Shliach in the middle, the middle 60s, and this was Tavshin Mem Vav. So it was in the third cycle of three prakim. It was like Tavshin Mem Vav. Maybe it was just about the end of the second cycle, I think. And we were in 770 upstairs. It was Friday night. We were waiting for the Rebbe. The Rebbe was then, had a problem with his leg, davened upstairs. And I said to him, I said, how are you doing on Rambam? And he said, of course, I've never, ever missed a day of Rambam. And he told me a story which fascinated me. The story was that he had, as normal, he had orchim, he had visitors on a Friday night at his Shabbos dish. And they finished, it was late at night, 11, maybe even 12, it was late at night. And he was going to do the Rambam. He never, ever goes to bed. If he hasn't managed earlier in the day, he'll never go to sleep before doing the Rambam. And he didn't remember what the three prakim were. And it just slipped his mind. And he couldn't make a phone call. It was a Friday night. He couldn't get into a car, obviously. And in California, everyone is pretty far from each other. But he did remember that it was Hilchos Tefillah. So he sat down and he learned through the entire Hilchos Tefillah of the Rambam in order to ensure that he did the correct three prakim on the relevant day. That's, that's an example. I think many people have similar types of things. I mean, in my own life, there was chasanas, there was graduations in school. There's the Motzei Tisha B'Av. There are many times here Tisha B'Av ends at about 10, 11 o'clock at night. And it's, you can think it's difficult if one is determined in Russia, in the Soviet Union, the Tovshem Memvav Sukkis, with Rabbi Chaim Tzvi Groen. After Fabring, being davening, jumping, couldn't on a light. There were no lights, and Indian on
Rabbi Lew,
lay down on the floor with the Rambam.
We're losing you a little bit, the connection. We need a skashus here.
And to make sure that they did those 3 prokim on the living day. Pardon?
I said we're losing you a little bit, but I think the connection is back a little bit better.
Right. Yeah. So which part did you lose it?
Just at the very end.
What part didn't you hear?
Repeat the story. Repeat the story when you went to Moscow.
The story about going to Moscow.
Story of Rabbi Kunin?
No, with Chaim Tzvi.
I think we're losing Rabbi Lew over here. This must be.
We went to Moscow with Rabbi Groner, with Rabbi Chaim Tzvi Groner, who's Australia, and we came back late at night, and in the corridor of most hotels, there's a light you can read by. But here there was not. It was pitch black, just like small little exit lights on the floor. And I had to lay down on the floor and take the and do the emergency of eating just to make sure I didn't go to bed before. And
I think this must be a very important story if the Maisa Sutton doesn't want us to give.
That's what it is.
Okay, we'll try. Rabbi Lew, are you there?
Are we connected?
Okay, I think.
We'll pause for a short commercial break. jbrick.com.
Okay, as Rabbi Lew is coming back, if we could have the moderator, what we're going to do is we're going to continue our conversation.
I'm here. Are you there?
But Rabbi Lew, maybe we can get you connected again. We'll give you a few moments. We're going to put up, we have every Siyum, we have a quiz that goes up. We have $100 gift certificate. Rabbi Lew, we're going to continue. Maybe it says your bandwidth is low. Maybe
I go to another room.
Leave the meeting and come back again.
Yeah, let's try that. But as we get Rabbi Lew back on, we're going to now go back to, we have a few more fascinating stories that Rabbi Lew is going to share.
Can I make thing, Rabbi Resnick? Come back in a minute. Okay, I'm doing that.
Yeah, just come back. We'll be back in 2 minutes. But let us we're now going to put up the quiz, and then we're going to hear back from Rabbi Lew. So we're going to hear the quiz is going to go on. We're going to give everybody 2 minutes to fill out the questions. We're going to go through the answers. The winner will receive a $100 gift certificate towards a Rambam of their choice. And can we please have the quiz up on the screen? Okay, question number 1. The Rebbe spoke about the significance of the names of every set of halachas in Sefer Avodah except one. Which one is it? Question number 2. In this 8th Sefer of Rambam, which is the only set of halachas which does not mention the number 8. This is for young and old alike, for the advanced and for the intermediate and the beginners. You can guess. Where does the number 43 come up in the Sefer? Who remembers where 43 comes up in the Sefer? Question 3. Question 4. How many years after entering Eretz Yisrael was the Beis Hamikdash built? Who remembers that number? Number 5. Are women and children obligated to help in the building of the Beis Hamikdash? Number 6. Between the years of 57, 44, and 52, certain halachas match the time of the year in which they were learned. Which halachas? This is a complicated question. Which halacha is this? Not a complicated, it's just one you either know or don't. Question 7. Which aveira in this sefer are there more punishments for if it's done inadvertently than on purpose? Where does one receive more punishment for doing something inadvertently than doing it on purpose? 8. Which is the only mitzvah asa in this sefer that is able to be observed nowadays by every Jew? And finally, 9, This event did not take place at the precise location of the Mizbeach. Which of these did not take place? We're going to give everybody another 30 seconds to fill this out. And we'll take you through the answers very quickly. Okay. 10 seconds left. Okay. We can take down the quiz, the answers, another 30 seconds, I'm told. Okay, another 30 seconds. Give everyone another 30 seconds. Okay, and quickly, the answers are we ready? The answers are, the Rebbe spoke about the significance of, lots of people are still working, I'm told by the moderator. Okay, people are still working, we're gonna wait. We're going to give another chance. And we're all eagerly awaiting for the finale of Rabbi Lew, who's come back on in full strength and vigor with good hiskashos, with good connection right now. Okay, can we give the answers now? Okay, the moderator, I believe, says we can give the answers now. And they are, the one set that Rebbe did not talk about is Hilchas Me'ilah. And where don't we have the number 8? We don't have the number 8 in Hilchas Me'ilah. We also, the number 43, if you'll remember, those are the number of times the Kohen Gadol would sprinkle the blood on Yom Kippur in the Heichal. The Beis Hamikdash was built after the Jews entered, at 440 years after we entered Eretz Yisrael. There is a mitzvah for women to build the Beis Hamikdash, but there is no mitzvah for children to build the Beis Hamikdash. And it was the ones that coincided in the years 5744 and 5752 were both Hilchas Beis Hamikdash were during the 3 weeks, and Hilchas Avedis Yom Kippurim was the shir for Erev Yom Kippur and Yom Kippur. Number 7, there was, where do you have more punishments for doing something inadvertently? That's for Me'ilah. Remember, you have to bring the fifth plus the carbon and everything. And the only mitzvah that we're able to do nowadays is Sfer Sa'imer. And finally, which of these did not take place? What did not take place was Yaakov Avinu's karbanis did not take place in that location. We're going to announce the winner as soon as we have one. And now we are back here with Rabbi Lew. Rabbi Lew, are you here? Uh-oh, he was here. Rabbi Lew Sr., we wanted to ask you some very important questions. Okay.
Turning over a new leaf.
We had... No.
You hear me?
Oh, now we hear you. Okay. Are you there, Rabbi Lew?
Do you hear now?
Barely. Now, are you there?
Do you hear me?
The connection is not so strong, but we do hear you. Let me ask you a question. Let's see if we can get an answer. Rabbi Lew, many people don't know, should I take 1 perek? Should I take 3 perakim? It's difficult. It takes a long time. I want to learn it better. I don't know. What would you suggest to somebody who's coming to you? You're a guide and a mentor for so many.
You hear me? I didn't speak here.
Rabbi Lew, you hear the question? What would you do as a guide for people if they should choose the 1 perek track or the 3 perakim track? Okay. I think this means that at the end of Sefer Karbanis, we're going to have Rabbi Lew back.
Oh, he's back now. He's back.
He's back?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that this means that we're going to wait with bated breath for another few weeks until we finish.
You're highlighting the wrong Rabbi Lew, by the way.
Okay. Well, I want to thank everyone for joining us. Thank you.
He's here on his real name. Here.
I'm here.
Oh, Rabbi Lew. Okay, we got another 3.
First of all, I must mention that there's so many ways. The Rebbe told me a different yechidus about learning chassidus that you can get it in 3 languages today: Hebrew, English, and Yiddish. Today, you can get it in every language with every media. There's a program on Chabad.org of the daily 3 prakim with Rabbi Resnick himself, 35 minutes give or take every day. Just if you give that amount of time. About the idea of 1 perek and 3 prakim, every person has to speak with their mashpia to know everything is a good thing. The Rebbe obviously expected, especially shluchim, rabbanim, to do 3 prakim. I know a person here in England, was in England then, but the name of Rabbi Chaim HaKohen Pharaoh. And he was doing 3 prakim a day, like all of us. And this was after the 3rd cycle in Tavshim Mem Zayin. And he found that the pressures of time were very great. And he asked the Rebbe, if could he reduce it to 1 parak a day. And the Rebbe said to him 2 points. Number 1, Mailin Bakoidish, you increase, a person adds in holy things and does not subtract. And number 2, I don't remember the Lashon, but the idea, I don't remember the exact words, but the idea was, you are a leader, a spiritual leader, and you have to be standing on a level more than that which you expect from the others. So you can expect maybe from a lay person or an inexperienced person. I'm not judgmental on anyone. The person who does 1 parak a day and spends a half hour, 45 minutes on it and really works on it. So, then he's working on it. But if a person does 1 parak a day, and that in himself, he's davening up 3. I advise people to learn 1 parak, even if it's just simple meaning of the words. You could have the Tauga Rambam, you can get the 35-minute program. However, and if you feel that you only have the capacity to do 1 parak, do 1 parak that way, and 2, just say, or half a parak in depth, because in learning Torah Sheba'al Peh, the halacha is that when you study Torah Sheba'al Peh, you have to understand it, Havana v'Hasaga, and in order to fulfill the mitzvah of Talmud, that specific commandment. But the segula of his kashrus, of connection, for that, even saying it is also a level of his kashrus. Rebbe says it about chitas. And so each person has to really look at themselves with the goal, the healthy way, if somebody brushes their teeth once a day, they're also, it's better than not doing it at all. And it's more than better than not doing it at all. It's a wonderful thing. It's the Rebbe's takana. If that is the level where a person is, what I would suggest that for many of us, it's really time management. And even if you don't have time management and everything else, if there's the kaviyas b'nefesh, I am going to do it, finished. The next thing is, how do I get it best built into my whole day without hurting anybody else and without hurting any of my other activities, to be able to fit this in. And then ask yourself 301, the question will be a different question then, because a person will find a way to fit it in. I once told a group, it was actually girls in our school, and I said, it was the beginning of a Rambam, and I do Sefer Mitzvahs. I said, I'm not a prophet, I'm not a Navi, but I believe that if you make a hachalota and you'll try it for 1 year, the Shliach Rambam is 339 days. Do it for that period of time. It's long, especially for a young kid, a teenager. And at the end of that time, see if you feel empowered and edified and innovated and elevated and like a different person. And that one of the people in that audience in the school, like 125 kids, can I know her, but sent me a letter a year later. Years, about 10, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, maybe. And she wrote, thank you so much for what you said a year ago. I did it, and it has elevated me in every area of my studies and every area of my life. So I say that it's not something which is like, it's not like a burden of carrying a sack of rocks. It's like carrying diamonds. It's something which elevates your whole limud HaTorah, your whole avodas Hashem, your whole relationship with the Eibishter, your whole relationship with the halacha, your whole relationship with learning Gemara. When you do the Rambam, then when you study whatever Gemara you happen to be doing, it's familiar. You know something about it before you even start with it. So the short answer to one parak or three prakim, it's obviously preferable to do three, and everybody has to work out with their mashpia and with their own pnimis haneshama what's right for them.
Thank you. Can we get 60 more seconds, Rabbi Lew? We've gone over time, but can you give us just, they call rapid fire, rapid responses, some good tips and tricks or things and ways to keep on track, to never miss a day, and ways to keep us going as we conclude today's Siyum Harambam. Rabbi Lew, please.
Well, some I already said. One of them is to invest maybe in Rabbi Tauger's excellent English. If you want something in Hebrew, there's the Chitrik, which is like that's the Rambam of the Rambam. Or there's a new one, Pardas HaMelech, from a beautiful Jew who has 1,000 sichos of the Rebbe. He has the Rambam with the Ravid, everything of the Meforshim and sources. There is the Rambam Ha'orach, only about half of it came out. There is a Steinsaltz Rambam, which gives a basic explanation. There is another one, which I forgot the name. I had it, and I just gave it away to someone. It's got the colored. I bought the soft cover because I wanted to for traveling. There are many editions today, which are diagrams with pictures, which make it very accessible. And in English, you have Tawis, which is not just a translation. He also has many. There's a lot of it's a commentary as well. Another idea is to get yourself a book, a notebook, and write. I know someone who did this for 1 year or 2 years. Write every day at the end of your Shir Rambam, one line, not more, just one line, 2 lines, a sentence, something interesting that you noticed in the Shir Rambam, for example, or like something like you just had in your trivia. This is the only mitzvah that can be done today of the whole Sefer is Shvias HaOmer, which is the Rabbanon according to many poskim. But you studied something in the Rambam that day, either an idea, an interesting insight, or a question that you have, something which is not even that well understood. So you have something that you're doing with it. Another way is to get a chavrusa, either someone to study it with, or someone who you check with. They have these little groups, especially the women. They have the groups of Tanya and of Tilim, and people check off that they did that kapitel or that or their share that day. So it has the koyach harabim, and it's the fact that one is reminded by each other. Another way is to get a group of people in the yeshiva here in London many years ago. I don't know how they do it now, but they every day a different bacha prepared. Either one bacha prepared 3 prakim or 3 bachim, each one prepared 1 perek. And that your turn came out once every week. Or you had to do 3 prakim a month, whether it was 1 at a time or 3 at a time. And they did it in a lunchtime or at night. It took them 20 minutes, but the person who had prepared it was able to give it over, something like the Chabad.org Shiyurama today.
Very nice.
Those are some of the ideas, some of the tips.
I'm
sure I can think of it.
Thank you very much. The Eibusher should give you tremendous hatzlacha in your mentorship and education and leadership, and many happy, healthy years of Limud Rambam and inspiring. I want to thank all the staff and all the people behind Rambam.today. They put in hours and hours and hours of dedication to put this program together, to put the website together. Rabbi Cantor, Rabbi Zaklis, Rabbi Lane, Rabbi Darren, and all the many people, Rabbi Lipsker. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Yitzy Kasowitz from J-Brick. Yeah, his products are available on his website. He comes and travels the world. I don't know, during COVID, he does it virtually during COVID to give models of the Beis Hamikdash. Rabbi Lew, God bless you. Rabbi Kramer from the Rambam. Thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing everybody in a few weeks' time as we conclude Sefer Karbanis, book number 9. Tremendous hatzlacha as we cover the Karbanis, Pesach, Hagiga, and Shkagis. Hatzlacha. Thank you, everybody. Sei gesund.
Thank you very much.
Amen. Thank you, Zagis.